On today's show, the Cavs dropped game one, what it means and what it tells us about the rest of the series. All today and more on today's Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play or the App Store. I'm Chris Manning. That's Evan Dammarrell. We're here to talk Cavs Celtics game one. Cleveland drops game one. I think as expected in terms of the actual result, but a 120-95 game. High scoring first quarter, low scoring second. Boston in control much of this game. They won every quarter and ended up stacking up a 25-point win. Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell has 33. Evan Mobley 17. Two other starters in double figures. Evan, what's your big takeaway from this game?
If Jared Allen is unavailable, and I'll talk more about Allen in a bit, but like if you start Isaac Okoro and it's clear that Boston strategically placed Al Horford on him to kind of, save some of that energy in the starting lineup without Kristaps Porzingis, and if you're Okoro and you're able to get this consistent 3-point production, I think that can be a little bit of a, I don't want to say game changer, but difference maker, at least for Cleveland throughout this series, just because you need more players to step up, rather than just Donovan Mitchell, who was sensational tonight in this game. But the Cavs need other guys to step up. Like Max Strus didn't have it. Darius Garland didn't. Evan Mobley's 17 points are, I think, a little misleading just because he missed some pretty easy looks, and there's moments where maybe he was a little too passive with the ball. But it was mostly Mitchell and then Isaac Okoro coming out red hot in the first quarter, and then kind of being a little consistent until JV Bickerstaff pulled the plug on him entirely.
Yeah, I think what for me that this game is about, I think big picture, big takeaway, this game is about that I think Cleveland has some just built-in challenges in this matchup. I think they're going to struggle with some of the things they struggled with in this game over the course of the series. They're going to struggle to stay in front of Derek White at times. They're going to struggle to stay in front of Jaylen Brown at times. I think you can expect better games from Jason Tatum, who had 18, 11, and 5, but 0-5 from 3. You're probably going to deal with better games from him. You're going to have to deal with the fact that this is a high-volume shooting Boston team. Cleveland did nearly match them in terms of three-point output, not nearly as many makes, but that's going to be something you're going to deal with where they can get hot and pull away from you just like that. And on top of that, they match up with you pretty well defensively. And so, some of the same issues you saw with his offense last round, I think still are there. You got a big game for Mitchell, but you didn't get necessarily enough from other guys. We'll get to Mobley, and I think some of what he showed in the second half that was encouraging. But this was a 4-point Karis LeVert game. This was Sam Merrill played, and I like that adjustment from JB, but he was 0-5. You're gonna have, I think, just a real uphill battle in this series. I think this game played out kind of how I would expect it. I think Boston has some structural advantages. I think they're just better. I think it's on Cleveland to find ways to muck this up, make it ugly, maybe get a little bit lucky. But I think this game, to me, is a reminder that the Cavs just are facing an uphill battle if they're going to have any chance of being competitive in this series.
Yeah, and I think there's a path. And as you had noted, I think the Sam Merrill adjustment was a good one. Karis LeVert not carrying that momentum from Game 7 is disheartening just because in the regular season he was very effective in kind of dicing up Boston's bench units and kind of being an impactful player as a reserve. He was their third leading scorer during the regular season behind Mitchell, Garland, and then Donovan, Jared Allen as the fourth guy. But speaking of Allen, I think with the Merrill adjustment, or just how 3-point happy and heavy the Cavs were in this game, at least compared to how they looked against Orlando, you do need a little bit of that inside threat in Allen, who is consistently going to get you looks, or at least attack the basket, increase rim pressure at the rim to kind of allow you to have that inside out approach that the Cavs really do thrive at and are at their best at. And I think that's just kind of the missing link right now is you don't have a lot of consistency on the inside where you get a lot of looks on the perimeter, A lot of them didn't go down, but I think you could get cleaner looks on the perimeter if you're able to create more consistent pressure at the basket. And either that results in, 2 points or a trip to the free throw line or what have you, but it at least forces Boston to adjust and kind of correct instead of what the Celtics were doing, especially when they really got entrenched in the third quarter and really kind of walled off the basket and dared Cleveland to beat them on the perimeter, and the Celtics gamble paid off for them pretty well.
I guess the only thing I would say to that is just isn't like I think there's a reason Boston like is 37-4 at home. They've won 64 games.
Fair enough.
Regular season and postseason. It's like I think like if I agree with what you're saying about those adjustments. Like those are all true. But I think if those were like easy and obvious to make, Boston, and like that was the way just to like figure out Boston, I think more teams probably would have done it by now.
Fair enough. Yeah, and that's kind of the puzzle when it comes to solving Boston is how do you actually beat them, especially when they are so lethal at home. And the Cavs did do it once this year, but like it was a little bit of like an exasperated effort and a bit of a weird game to be earlier in the season. But I am curious just again to see what the adjustments are. Does JB Bickerstaff lean heavier into the 3-point attack? Does he maybe switch things up a little bit? Maybe you don't see Sam Merrill right away and you kind of see Sam Merrill be like a feel out player versus getting like the heavy command of minutes that he got in the first and second half. And like there's going to be a little bit of plugging and playing and tinkering options. And I think the Cavs do have the personnel to kind of mix and match and plug and play these lineup pieces. And we'll kind of just get a full perspective of what's going to happen in game 2. But like there is some encouraging stuff. I think there are good bones to make this a competitive series. It's just how do the Cavs finish painting this picture, or as they go, of course, but at least add some meat to the structure. I'm using a lot of comparisons here, I know, but just kind of find a way to flesh things out a little bit to build upon what worked and tamper down on what didn't work for you, which there's a lot that didn't. And it's going to be a little bit of a chess match for sure, just because then I'm curious to see what the adjustments are for game 2, just because like tonally speaking, this was a very different matchup compared to how it was against Orlando in the first round, where it's just very ugly physical basketball for 4 quarters.
Yeah, very, very different sport. I think you said they won in Boston. They did. The Cavs did not win in Boston this year. They won. Are you thinking of the Karis LeVert nonsense game the year before?
Yeah, that
because the two games. Yeah,
crawl.
Yeah. So this year they lost in December. Mitchell had 29 and 31 in back-to-back games. They lost by 7 and then by 9 in Boston. And then the game they beat Boston was the Dean Wade game in front of the Kelsey brothers.
Travis, Jason, you guys got to step up, I guess, if you want to make this
and just
series.
Delete. They need the Kelseys to delete Beers.
You guys need to sacrifice your livers to let the Cavs hashtag let them know at home for games 3 and 4.
Yeah, maybe go to Boston as well. Look,
them in Boston would be fun. I don't know if it'd make a huge difference. It'd be a distraction at least.
I mean, I don't know if
someone's girlfriend showed up.
I mean, I don't think it's making a difference at home really either. My issue, I think, in thinking about this series, Evan, is pretty simple. I think like it's going to look structurally very different than round 1 because Boston is structurally different than Orlando. Mm-hmm. I think the Cavs obviously are going to come into this game the more tired team, the more fatigued team. I also just think at the end of the day, Boston's going to have these advantages over Cleveland that are going to win out. And that's like where I think where I am butting up against is, okay, yes, there's adjustments they can make. I think they pulled the right levers for game 1. Like, I think only Niang only playing at crunch time is a great adjustment. I think limiting Morris was a good adjustment. I think trying Tristan Thompson wasn't a bad idea. I think trying Sam Merrill was a good idea. I guess my question is ultimately like, what can it amount to if Allen doesn't come back, and if Allen doesn't, and even if Allen does come back, how far does this extend? I think that to me, game 1 kind of affirmed my view that I think there's a gap here between these two teams.
I think that's fair. Yeah, there's definitely a gap, and I think the gap, obviously, like Boston is statistically, record-wise, however you want to paint it, one of the best, if not the best team in basketball this season. And with how things are going for the Nuggets right now against the Wolves and Anthony Edwards just eating them alive, and just the defense in general eating Denver alive, like you can feel hot about Minnesota, but like Boston definitely makes sense as like your plan B in terms of just like a championship winner, just because they have the pieces, they have the length, and I really do have to say, another little like footnote takeaway is Derek White kind of had Max Strus in hell in this matchup, and I think that could be a little bit of a shift factor too for Cleveland because they do need shooting support and just offensive support to balance out what Donovan Mitchell's doing, despite the limitations of his knee.
Let's talk about I want you to expand on that, but let's do a little break first. I want you to expand on the Strus and White part of it and what you're seeing there after this. Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Moms are a gift, so give her the best this Mother's Day. Get gifts that are as thoughtful as she is with DoorDash. Select from hundreds of expertly crafted boutiques to the best of tech to self-care essentials and more delivered right to her door. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get a gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You can't go wrong. Get thoughtful gifts she deserves with the convenience you need. Choose same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead when flowers and gifts should arrive to her with DoorDash. Shop with savings that would make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fee, apply and terms apply. You get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your next small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that the small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that can help you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Evan, so expand on what you saw in the Strus Derek White situation.
So heading into this game, as I had noted, they put Al Horford on Isaac Okoro when they were defending. I think that freed up Jason Tatum maybe to be a little bit of a freelancer, a guy you could hide on like Darius Garland as well, but also kind of maybe empowers Horford to be a guy who muddies things up in the middle, but also can comfortably switch out onto the perimeter because he is a pretty versatile player too. It was a smart defensive call by Joe Mazzulla. Then it's just pretty straightforward from there. Like you have Drew Holiday or Jaylen Brown on Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown on the other player, in this case it'd be Darius Garland, and then like Tatum again, you're hiding him a little bit and you're trying to find the weaker link. But like Orlando did something similar. Like they threw arguably their second or best overall, like just individual defender. And I think Derek White definitely deserves his flowers for being one of the best defensive stoppers at the guard position in the league this year. And he really seemingly frustrated Strus a lot. He held him to 2 of 8 shooting, 1 of 5 from the perimeter, 5 points, 3 fouls. I think I saw Max Strus complaining at the refs more than I did making shots or getting back on defense. So like Strus was very frustrated. And after a frustrating series against Orlando, I think keeping him off kilter and keeping him from finding his rhythm is a very smart defensive strategy from Boston, just because he does have the ability to get hot and be a game wrecker because he can hit and rip off a couple quick threes just to swing momentum or, the lead back into Cleveland's corner. If Boston mitigates that and kind of hones in on other players, whether it's like Garland or I guess Okoro, Okoro going 3 of 8 from 3 feels like a bit of an anomaly, but, hopefully that sustains. But, like it turns into, all right, Donovan, can you beat us on your own? And it turns into a case of no, he cannot. Especially like, let's put in perspective, Jason Tatum had a really pretty pedestrian night tonight against the Cavs, and the Celtics still won by 25 because they honed in on grinding Cleveland's role players or stars, in like Darius Garland's case, down and just kind of forcing Mitchell to work for every single shot and beat them on his own.
I think on the flip side too, the defensive side, like the defensive stuff Cleveland's going to deal with in this series probably just feels so different. Like Derek
Oh
White
yeah,
is just like a kind of player that doesn't exist on the Magic. So like of course like it's going to cause some issues, It's like he's going to pop all these threes. He took 12 three-pointers in this game by his own. Like
7 to
the
12.
Magic didn't have the
It was
Magic.
hot.
He's good. Captain of the all ball guys team. My favorite team. They there's not a player on Orlando who like plays like anyone on the Celtics. Like everyone, it's
like
such a difference.
It's like if Jalen
Yeah.
Suggs had a reliable shot. Like that's the kind of player
Yeah.
we could see with Derek White.
and had like the freedom just to like the Celtics are so like it's pop pop pop, it's quick. Whereas
Yep.
the Cavs, it's very methodical. Or with Orlando, it was like very like methodical to say it kindly, sort of like meandering if you wanted to be mean about it. Like it's Boston is not meandering. It is to the point. It is free flowing. It is loose. Like the amount of times they take a quick three just because it's like mildly open is vastly different to what Orlando did. So like I'm sure from Cleveland's perspective, like you obviously had game planning. They've played
Yeah.
Boston before. It's not like this is entirely new, but to go from a 7-game series against one thing to this other thing, I'm sure it felt very different in the moment. On top of being tired.
On top of being tired, on top of it being like a high intensity, like the Garden was loud even when the Celtics were pulling away in the third quarter. To me, this game felt like it was getting away from Cleveland. I want to say maybe 5:30 to 4:30 minutes, 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third, and I'm thinking like, okay, it's probably time to circle the wagons and move on from this one. But like Boston imposed their will against the Cavs quite a bit. Like they out-rebounded them 55-38. They hit 7 more three-pointers on, of course, 4 more attempts, but like they're very, very efficient from the floor. They're almost 50% on shooting overall. Like this was, and then they were 22 assists on 45 makes, like a little bit of isolation, a little bit of mix-up and stuff too. And we talked about this again, but like the Cavs had a relatively solid game plan heading into this matchup, but I think there's some changes that need to be made. And I think a lot of it is just like maybe some more off-ball movement and cutting and just motion and things like that. Because there were moments when it clicked for the Cavs. They're playing faster. They're getting to their shots a lot sooner. And maybe we're like a little bit step ahead from Boston. But then the Celtics really just did a good job of dictating the flow and the pace in this game and kind of forced the Cavs to meet them at that level versus Cleveland forcing Boston to pick up the pace and defend it a little bit faster.
The other thing I think in this game, Evan, that I found, I think if there's another guy that's interesting is the Darius Garland part of it. Just because, number one, when he got whacked in the face, I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I thought, I'm like, great. Here we go again.
Yeah. Number two, 6 of 15, 2 of 8. I think struggled defensively at times. Did have 5 assists. I think he did maybe look as nervous as or rattled or whatever word you want to use that they did in Game 7 until he hit that late 3. But I think it's tough for the Cavs to like look, I think, in flow all the time if he's kind of going to have a game like this. Like they need him to be like 9 of 15, I think, if they want a shot in any of these games.
Yeah, he needs to be
not
much more.
11 of 15.
Yeah, I mean, finish the night, 6 of 15, but also like 0 turnovers is good, but like the 5 assists, 3 rebounds, like it was kind of a passive Garland performance. And I think Boston, again, credit where credit's due with their defensive scheming, like didn't let Garland be impactful with the ball in his hands. Like, sure, they didn't force a lot of turnovers, they forced 0, but like didn't let him kind of be free-flowing, creative, and passing the ball and kind of making the rock move, kind of keep the Cavs from being stagnant. And I think that's when it devolved into a lot of just heavy Donovan Mitchell and ISO. And like that's where Mitchell like would kind of hit a couple quick shots and get them back within 10, but then Boston would just stretch the lead back out and just turn into Donovan Mitchell trying to reclaim inches and, shutting off the water of Darius Garland in terms of just shot opportunities or just, creating plays for others. And I think that's just a good defensive strategy, just because like you said, like they are a different team from Orlando quite a bit, like very much different team. And I think the Cavs certainly got a feel of that in this game, just compared to what they were feeling from the Magic last game. And again, I think a lot of it could be altered a little bit and tweaked if there's some motion and a little bit just more off-ball cutting and things like that, just to kind of keep Boston moving a little bit, because the more you can make a defense move, and something the Celtics did to them a lot, like if you can't defend everywhere on the floor at once, and they did a good job exploiting like Al Horford on Isaac Okoro, but like I think there's other ways they could kind of mix and match stuff too to make things a little bit more frustrating for Boston if they're feeling so inclined.
I have a question for you, but that'll as a follow-up step. We'll get to that up next. Today's episode is brought to you by today's title sponsor, Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get to. Unique stickers, you can trade with friends to complete albums for bigger prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or robot Pinchico machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win and rent. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it free now on the Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So I'm asking this, Evan, in part to be a devil's advocate to what we're getting into. And I say this knowing that like I think Sam Merrill and playing him is an acknowledgement of some of the cutting and stuff and needing off-ball threats is necessary. But to the degree that I think you're kind of hinting at they might need it, or it's very possible they just might need that, do you think that is actually in this team's DNA to pull that switch right now? Like, is that a thing you could see them actually pulling off in a meaningful way in this series? Because I don't think so. It's just not something they've ever done.
I don't think so. Well, it's something they did back in, God knows, that's so long ago, January, mid-December, when Mobley and Garland were out. Like, a lot of it was movement, a lot of it was three-point shooting. Spacing, sometimes I felt like they fell in love with the three a little too much during that run, but yeah, I don't think, like, right now, unless Dean Wade is 100% in ship shape, like, he provides you that, just the screening and the size, at least, to give those guys opportunities to get more looks on the edge. Ditto for Jared Allen as well, because I think he set some pretty strong screens, but, like, Evan Mobley's kind of contact adverse still. Like, it's still this weird anomaly where, like, his screens just aren't very hard. Like, he sets, like, very light taps and, like, doesn't do well when somebody's setting a screen against him. So that's just something I've been kind of watching this entire postseason still. But, yeah, they have the guys. Like, if you can get Strus to move a bit more, but is he comfortable doing that? And I think that's, like you said, like, the levers. Like, is this team comfortable doing that? Like, right now on the fly in the postseason? I don't know, but also if you want to come back to Cleveland on Saturday not down 2-0, it might be something where you have to find comfort in being uncomfortable, but I think that's a completely valid question. Like, I don't think that's devil's advocate. Like, I just think it's, objective observations of just how this team works all year.
Yeah, I think it would be a very big swing from a coach and a coaching staff that hasn't shown that that's what they want to do. And they have Strus and, like, they have
Merrill, like Merrill, they played Merrill a healthy dose tonight. It's clear, like, they were trying to get looks on the perimeter with him, and he did, but, like, Boston either defended him well or, like, just prevented him from finding a rhythm out there.
On top of that, I think you'd also need, like, Garland to do some of this stuff, and, like, I think that's you need
the big one. It's just, like, I think Mitchell might be a little more comfortable doing that, but Garland just does not look at his element when he's playing off the ball.
Yeah, and Mitchell, it's like you want the ball in his hands because he's Donovan Mitchell. The one thing I will say that I felt interested in about where this goes forward, and not even for them winning the series, but just as a development, is what Evan Mobley did in the second half. I thought he attacked mismatches pretty darn well in the second half, attacking smaller guys, getting aggressive, going at the rim. No threes from him as the starting center in this game. If the three is still going to be just like an open thing with him.
Yeah.
And that is not, but I think him,
a 3-point attempt in this game that I'm just like, stinks.
Yeah, I'm looking now to see if he took any. I don't know if he took any against Orlando. I'm checking. Yeah, I'm double A. So in his career in the playoffs, he's taken. So no, that's no. So he took 4
in the playoffs. He took a few against Orlando early on.
Yeah, He took 11 in the first 3 games, and then he didn't take any after the first 3 games, for whatever that is. Or didn't take any in this game.
Kind of
If
makes
he
sense,
is like,
'cause
if
that's
this,
when Jared Allen went down and they started playing him inside.
but it's just like tough that I don't like. It shouldn't just it shouldn't be like a Jared Allen dependent thing if it's going to be a thing.
100%
is the thing.
Just be a thing.
Yeah. But at least him attacking mismatches, I think, like, if you need to... Like, the Cavs are just going to need some sources of easy offense the rest of the series. That's at least maybe one you could look at and see if you learn... Moby gets at least some reps in that case. And especially if, like, Okoro might not go 3 of 8 again. And, like...
No, that's something I feel comfortable in saying. Like, that probably will not happen a second time.
Yeah, although the energy he came out with right off the bat, great. That guy is not spooked by this.
He juiced the Cavs. I very much thought when they went down 12-2, I'm like, okay, this one's over. And then I saw them, watch them climb back, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a little bit of juice here, and Isaac Okoro's the one giving it right now.
Anything else from this game, Evan? I thought a pretty like by the books, like what this felt like what I expected in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I felt like I expected. I think the Cavs, at least it's encouraging. If you're looking for some positivity from this game, they did show a little bit of guts. They showed a little bit of fight. Like, they weren't going to lay down and just give up to the Celtics. Like, they kept swinging. They kept trying to make this competitive, and they did. As Austin Carr would, smile from afar, got it within 10. But unfortunately, I think Boston was comfortable with them getting it within 10 points. Because the Celtics would just stretch the lead right back out, and then it just turned into that constant back and forth until the game ended, or at least got out of hand, and then we see a 25-point margin of victory, but it got a little wider than that, I believe, by the fourth quarter. But either way, I think there's good bones here. Like I said again, I think it's encouraging if you're Cleveland, but you really got to come prepared when you're, swinging with the best. And if you're the Cavs, you definitely want to avoid coming home down 2-0 for Saturday and Monday's games.
Yeah, we'll see where that ends up. Cavs, Celtics, game 2 is Thursday, game 3 Saturday. Evan will have a show tomorrow. We'll be back after game 2 on Friday for you to get you into the weekend, and then we'll have you sometime on Sunday covering game 3, although it's Mother's Day, and we'll take care of to spend some mom time before we figure all of that out.
Listen to Lock on Cavs with your mom.
Or just, if your mom's into the Cavs.
If you forgot to get your mom a gift, say, hey, Mom, there's this sick new podcast I want to show you. And she doesn't listen to podcasts, but hearing 2 white guys talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers may change her entire worldview.
It's tough. We're going to end there. I'm Chris. That is Evan. Have a great day, everyone. Be well. Thanks again to Jake Stevens, as always.